I ended up winning the points championship against Josh Berry, which was kind of fun. And funny story about that is I took my certificate that I get for winning that championship. I printed it out and went to a race and had Josh Berry sign it. I drag him up. We go up to Brennan Poole and they were talking. I put my arm around Brennan Poole. This is not like me. I'm not like this. I put my arm around Brennan Poole. I'm like, yo, Brennan, what's up? He's like, hey man, how's it going? I could have probably been more clear about restriction with the coaches, but I didn't want to piss them off at the same time because they got friends, and if they don't choose their friends are going to get mad at them.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pit Crew Podcast for episode number 13. I'm excited about this one because we got a special guest on tonight, Yee-J. We're bringing him on shortly. It's going to be an exciting interview because he has a lot of stuff going on. Today we'll be joined by Robert Hill and Chris from Drive Smart. Chris, how you feeling about tonight's stream?
Hey, how are you? It's nice to be here. You know, good seeing you, both of you, right? And once I knew that DJ Yee-J was going to be here, I couldn't miss this for the world. So I'm really excited to have him on tonight. And I mainly only want to talk about the Olympics. But we'll see how that plays out.
Robert, how you feeling, buddy?
Feeling pretty good, man. Excited to be here. Excited to have Chris back with us. Excited to talk to DJ. And can't wait for the Olympics coming up here soon. Get a little bit of shot put, javelin throw. What's your favorite Olympic sport, Dustin?
Oh, I don't know. I think I want to have to go with diving. I'm a little uneducated on anything that's not in motorsport. But I feel like we're going to have some beautiful conversation tonight going on with everything involving that. But with that said, I think we should go ahead and bring on DJ Yee-J. Yee-J, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
Hello there.
Hi.
Hello. I'm big on this screen. I overshot you. I could take all three of you on, it looks like.
Let's go.
Yeah, this is the final boss. It's like
Yeah.
that's where you get. Welcome, sir. Thank you so
Hello.
much for carving some of your Thursday night out to be with us.
Oh yeah, nothing better to do, of course, right? I could be teaching people to turn left, but I would drop them in a minute to be here.
It was funny because before we started the stream, I was like, DJ Yee-J, I just got back in iRacing and I really love trucks. You know, I was like, I almost kind of wish like Kyle drove a truck sometimes. That's how much I like it, right? And I was like, I watched your track guide right after they did the update because the update is real for anybody in iRacing who likes trucks, right? C Fix Marconi, you can find me out there all day long, okay? But the update is real, and I watched the track guide, and I was like, dude, I want to race. You know, by like Saturday, I'd want to race at Iowa, and I was super excited about that. So if you don't know about him, I basically think you put together a track guide for almost everything but A, right?
Yeah, I do everything except for the next gen car because I am really bad at the next gen car. It doesn't fit my driving style. What's interesting about the next gen car is you can't step over the limit or else you're just gone. And I always need to test it and feel where that is to be fast. So I really just end up being slow in the next gen or spinning out, one or the other.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't have the bravery yet, or nor the license to get to the next gen. So I don't know. I can say I understand your pain, but I haven't felt it yet. So I know we kind of jumped right into iRacing, right? I'm sure that's what everybody likes to do, even when they're paying you for training classes, which I've taken one. That's kind of how our relationship started, but we'll get to that part of the story later. But before we dive too deep, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you? Where are you from? Who is your father? What does he do? That type of thing.
I'm Justin. I am from Washington. Not many NASCAR fans out here, but I ended up just taking a liking to NASCAR when I was a toddler, just watching it on TV. Went to a friend's house, so his parents had NASCAR on the TV, and the rest is history. And from then on out, I was the one Asian that liked NASCAR for some reason in school, and that kind of carried on. And naturally, at some point, I wanted to try iRacing because it just looked really fun. I had done other NASCAR games before. I entered 2003 NASCAR Thunder, and just ended up in iRacing, and that's where I've been the last decade.
So, you know, we know that you create content, right? Maybe not everybody who's watching this video does, and if you don't, we'll put all the plugs, down below. But you started with iRacing before content creation, right? And then you are, if you don't know, one of the most well-known ARCA farmers that have ever existed, right? I think you are the head farmer of the ARCA farmer, right? So how did that happen, right? Like, how did iRacing turn? Like, when did you realize you're one of the best ARCA drivers in the entire world, and like you need a farm for this?
Uh, I started out not driving ARCA. Well, first off, I spent about 2 years only driving pickup cup because I didn't have money in high school to spend on iRacing. So I would just make new accounts for $5 every 3 months. And then, so I have like maybe 10 accounts on iRacing or something like that. And then at one point, when I had enough money, I started buying the content. And at that point, I was a D 4.99. So I skipped over ARCA and went straight to truck. Uh, and I did truck for maybe 2 years, truck and a little bit of Xfinity, but mostly truck. And at one point, I just realized I was really good at hot lapping. I was really good at the first couple laps in a run, but I was the worst driver of all time at saving tires. Um, it all kind of came to a head when one time I was doing Pocono. It was a really high split, and I was maybe like the 20 car, and I got the pole in that race. And I'm like, man, I'm God's gift to iRacing. And then by lap 10, I was literally in last place. And I was like, all right, we got to figure out what's going on here. So I went and only drove ARCA for like the next year just because there's no cautions in that. And that would force me to learn how to do long runs. And eventually I got good enough at ARCA to where started gaining lots of I rating. I started getting consistent top fives, and eventually I started winning some races. Then a season after that, I was winning most of my races. And then the next season, I was just about winning the points championship. And then at end of 2021, I ended up winning the points championship against Josh Berry, which was kind of fun. And funny story about that is I took my certificate that I get for winning that championship. I printed it out and went to a race and had Josh Berry sign it.
You have the autograph version of you beating him in the championship.
Yeah. So I have that hanging up on my wall right now,
That's
which
really
is really funny. And it was really cool because he knew who I was too when I went, right? First thing he asked me was, so we had a meet and greet, right? So I have a recording of this, but I took the mic for the meet and greet, and I was like, Josh Berry, DJ Yee-J from the Arca Farm. I have a question for you. Are you going to use an alt account this next season or something like that? And he's like, I don't think so. And then after the meet and greet, he goes straight over to me before signing anybody's like stuff. And he was like, yo, why does Larry hate me so much? He just asked me that like we were in voice chat or something. I'm like, oh, Larry doesn't like you because you use alt accounts. He's like, what does it matter to him? I'm like, I don't know. and talked a little bit, and I had him sign my certificate, which he got a kick out of. And then I don't remember much else because I was running on like 2 hours of sleep at that point, but it was fun.
How many championships have you won in ARCA?
Just that one.
Just one?
I gotten second to Larry Pace so many times, and finally, I haven't gone for a championship for like the last year or so, just because when I travel for work and go home and stuff, I miss out on the strength of field races, and that's where you get all the points. So if I'm missing those races, I can't win the championship mathematically. But the last time I actually made a full effort of it, I was basically had the best season ever. Like I was beating everyone every single race. I had the most points by far. All I had to do was show up to the last week and run like 10th, and I had the championship on lock. And then a couple days before that race, I got an infection on my butt, which made it impossible for me to sit. and then I had to miss. I tried to force myself, but I could not sit down for the life of me, and I ended up having to miss that race, and I lost the points title, and I gave up after that.
You had a topical butt infection that
Yes.
prevented you from winning your second championship. Maybe one of the things that, so sometimes in like these podcasts, right, or even at the racetrack, like when we talk to people, I hear things that I don't expect to hear, but this is going to go down probably in the top three, and
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take to beat this, but I will never forget what you just said to me.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's deep lore, right? Only people on my Discord server know that.
I watched your whole entire iceberg video, just so you know
Yeah,
that.
that's
I
bottom.
is it? I
No,
don't
it's
think
not
it's
in it.
there. It's not in there. That's what I'm saying.
No.
I watched that thing a couple times.
That
I
just
think
happened like 6 or 9 months ago.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's actually post iceberg video. Otherwise,
Right.
in there. That's one of your first videos that I recall that were long, right? Because
That's the longest video I've ever made. Hour and 20 minutes. I've never made another video over 30 minutes ever since then.
Did really well though, if I recall properly.
Oh yeah, I would make hour-and-a-half long videos if I could, but it's just not super efficient too. I was considering doing a multi-part series on the history of iRacing and maybe releasing them in like hour-long chunks. But that's also a huge undertaking that may or may not happen depending on if I feel like it.
Yeah, it's an entire series. But yeah, no, I know exactly. I have a half idea. Dustin knows even better than you do, right? Because he has to go through it on a week-to-week basis. But I understand exactly what you're saying. So going back real quick, so when did you create the Arc? What came first, the YouTube channel or the Arca Farm? Like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
The YouTube channel came first. That was in February of January 1st of 2022 was when I made the YouTube channel. And then I think I made the Discord server probably in March, maybe February. Basically, I just wanted to make a place where people could come and ask questions and have somebody who knows pretty well answer them. And it got big when the channel got big, but so it eventually kind of just turned into a Discord server for my channel. But to start out with, it was more like a iRacing helpline channel.
Yeah, no, I think I mean I came in there early before you had like 10,000 subs, and it was like really it has evolved the Discord, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. How many people are in there now ish? You
Probably
recall?
like over 2,000. I haven't checked in a long time.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. You're like power of the internet, I could tell you right now.
Yeah,
If you were patient, sir, I will let you know.
how do you even check that? Where do you even see that?
That's a great question. You know, my aptitude with Discord is not fantastic. I'd imagine it's in the top left corner if I had to take a wild guess, like near your banners and options.
Yeah, I see how many members I've gained in the past month, but it doesn't tell me how many people total. Oh well, I give it. I think it's like a little bit over 2,000, something like that.
Here's a number we're going to be better at. How many subs do you have now?
On YouTube.
Yeah.
33,000 something.
Is that more than you thought you'd ever get when you first started it?
When I first started it, yeah. When I started going into YouTube Shorts, I thought I was gonna be like 100K with YouTube Shorts, and then I realized that YouTube Shorts do nothing for me, and then I quit them. But now that I'm just making videos again, it's pretty wild to me that iRacing NASCAR has gotten to this point, but I think it can also go bigger, if that makes sense. So it's all about just me trying to figure out what's possible. It's almost like I'm running in hot lap, but for YouTube.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was going to say that, but you're one of the most humble dudes I've ever met, right? But do you feel slightly responsible for some of the growth in this space, this iRacing space?
I know I'm responsible for quite a bit of road racers becoming more interested in oval racing. I think, I don't know, probably some of my stuff has helped convince people to get iRacing itself. I think it's still fairly, it's not insignificant, but I don't think it's huge yet. You know what I mean? I think it's not like massive. Like I'm gaining iRacing 10% more people, but I definitely think that it's a substantial number that have seen something that I've done and either have tried out oval racing or have just gotten iRacing in general.
I mean, you're basically the oval racing point of like beginner information, like things you didn't think of, like and I feel like you should get credit for the growth in the sport again, because from all the stories I heard, because I wasn't really into iRacing prior to a couple years ago. And what I heard is like COVID, everything blew up, especially with everybody being home, which makes sense. And then it kind of seemed this falling off when everybody started reopening. But it kind of feels like iRacing is getting big again, like very big. And there's room for growth.
Yeah, definitely 2020 was the most eyes that's ever been on iRacing. I think the number of people subscribed to iRacing has only increased. It just kind of plateaued after 2020. But it's definitely kind of coming back. I think the reason for that is that iRacing is more accessible than it's ever been. Not because of me particularly, but because the price of iRacing isn't as outlandish to people anymore. It's the tough parts are more, how do I get a wheel? How do I make a racing setup? It's less about the actual price nowadays, because people go and spend $200 a year on Fortnite or on Roblox like it's nothing. So I
It's
don't
just
think
what it is now. Yeah.
right. And iRacing is relatively cheaper than it used to be. The iRacing you had to pay. And correct me if I'm wrong if you guys remember, but I think it was like $20 a track or something like that in 2008 if you wanted to buy a track in iRacing. So you were spending even more money back then, especially with inflation compared to you are now. And so it kind of everything's catching up to iRacing. And then because iRacing is getting bigger, at the same time they're able to kind of scale stuff relatively down a little bit.
iRacing pricing down. You don't see that a lot. Usually things only go up. So congratulations to them for pricing down.
Well,
So
they're not going to go any farther down, I promise you.
nothing goes that far down.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen or talked to you in a while. So the first 17 minutes, even though we're doing this podcast together, I just wanted to catch up with you, kind of go through some of the back. But I'm gonna pass it over to Dustin now. I'll stop hogging the mic. I know you got some good questions, my friend.
Absolutely. So DJ, I know that you came on to the NASCAR iRacing scene a little bit later than some of us that came up a little bit earlier. What was the moment where you're like, hey, I want to up into the YouTube scene? I know a lot about this iRacing stuff, but I feel like I can bring something to the table that's going to attract viewers. What made you want to jump over to YouTube, and when did you know that you wanted to?
I think it was a New Year's resolution 2022 that I said I want to make videos and just do it even though I don't really know how. Because that was right after I won that ARCA championship against Josh Berry. So I was like, if anybody has the credibility to make guides like this, I do. And then the previous guy who did the ARCA guide stopped doing them like a month prior. So it was like a perfect opportunity. So it was right then when I knew that I would have an audience. I didn't know how big the audience would be, but I knew that I had a captive audience. And I watch a ton of YouTube, like more than any other media. I don't have like a Netflix account or anything like that. I just watch YouTube. And I feel like I have a good idea about how the system works, like just how the website as a whole works. And so once I started getting an audience from those guides, then I started just saying, maybe I want to try this. I want to try doing these things that I've thought about for a while. I don't know really what I'm going to do, but I kind of know what to model myself after. And so I kind of started growing it from there, kind of started leaving the guides behind and just see how far I could take it for what my initial audience and the audience that I was growing into became.
That's awesome. So when you went from, obviously, I know you told me before that what you're really good at is script writing, narration, and stuff like that. Did that come natural to you, or did you have a past history of where you're just like really good with that type of stuff? And when you jumped into that, did you know that was the direction you wanted to take the channel, going from track guides to something completely different, but yet keeping it in the same community?
Yeah, to answer the first part of that question, my few passions in life are probably NASCAR, sim racing, and writing. I've always been a writer for as long as I can remember. I No one will ever read any of the stuff I write because I write it all for myself. Like I have a whole book. I've literally written a novel, and it's not good. I promise you, it's not good. But no one's ever going to read it, so that's okay. And every so often, I go back and visit it and make changes to stuff that I think is bad. But uh, between that, having a lot of really good English teachers throughout, especially high school, I've always been a strong writer. So when I started doing this YouTube thing, I kind of saw it as a way to become a creative outlet that other people would see, because it's always difficult, I guess you could call it, an artist, where you have to balance making art that satisfies yourself with making art that is recognized, that kind of feeds that ego part of you. And I found that doing iRacing and sim racing style videos was a perfect way to ha- practice writing or do what I guess you could call it art in a way, and have people recognize it and applaud it. That's like a lot of people's, that hits one side, and then the other side is hitting something that's super satisfying to you. And all of that I kind of keep to the side. I can't keep those completely separated. And I think that that really helps me personally kind of navigate all that. And then when you add on top of that, me just loving data. Like I'm a data nerd. I like analyzing stuff and figuring out how to optimize stuff. And so when I take the data that I get from doing YouTube videos and trying to like figure out how all this stuff works, and I'm able to change the outcomes of stuff by performing a certain way, that's really gets me going as well. So it's really a combination of all of that that kind of led me to where I am right now.
If I recall
So-
properly, if I recall, I think I started watching your channel for the track guides when I first started getting into iRacing, which would have been after the F1 race last year. And then somewhere in, I think the spring or early summer is when you really started switching your channel over and you made a video. I don't think it was very long, but you were explaining like this is no longer going to be a track guide channel. This is going to be more like this is what I want to do. Right. And you're like, I even know that a lot of my base came from the track guide. So if you're into this, like you can go find it somewhere else. But like this is what the channel is. And you didn't even really try to pander to an audience. You were just like, this is what I want to do. Right. And if you're only here for this, cool. Like you can go find it there and I'll still do it. But like this is what to expect from the channel. And I think you did all of that. And I think how you just explained it kind of like that was the plan and you pulled that off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was a plan at a certain point. So I was really happy doing track guides for a while. I didn't really realize what the YouTube could become until I did a couple of those more general guide videos. Like instead of a track guide, it was how to set your brake bias or something like that. And then that became my most viewed video. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. I can do more than just hyper specific stuff now that I have my initial audience. So at a certain point, I was like, I'll tell people that I'm going to switch things up, but they don't need to stick around. I'm not forcing them to. If I'm doing what I think is going to work, they're going to stick around anyways because I should be making stuff that they're interested in, even if they came for the track guys initially. And if I'm not making something that they're not interested in, then that's my fault. That's not their fault. And I kind of think of it as taking a small circle and growing it into a bigger circle, which still has the small circle encompassed in it. And you just keep doing that over and over again until you either get too big and it all pops, or you just completely move to something else, or you find the size that's like good for you and you just kind of stick in that lane. And I don't think I'm there yet, but we'll see.
No, that makes sense. Especially if you think about the circles, you got to think about that deep because it's basically circles inside of circles. That some circles are inside of other circles that are maybe inside of a circle, but
Maybe it's
technically
a 4D circle.
all by itself. And with that said, Robert, that's a tough one to follow up with, so we're gonna pass it to you for the first time tonight.
Wow, that's a lot of circles right there. I'm not going to run in circles here, but in my line of work, when it comes to motorsports announcing, there's guys that I've looked up to, such as Bob Jenkins, Mark Janes, Ken Squire. For you as a YouTuber or content creator, is there somebody that you've looked up to for inspiration as you're coming up through this journey of yours?
Yeah, his name is DLBTV.
I know that guy.
I watched. So there was the answer is I don't watch much iRacing YouTube. I don't watch much NASCAR YouTube even. But of the iRacing videos that I knew back way before all that, when I was just playing iRacing, were the crash compilations, the funny moments, and then the people like Dustin who were recording their races. And when I started getting serious about doing YouTube, I thought to myself, there is a lot of space in this niche. But the problem is that like it's not a huge niche. But I thought of it more as like if I grow the niche and I create my own space, I can grow as the niche grows. And so I started modeling my channel, and you'll see it like I copy different people's videos in different ways. Basically what I do is I watch YouTube. I watch a video that has nothing to do with iRacing. I understand why it works for that genre, and then try to put it into iRacing context. So one of the biggest inspirations I have for what I'm doing right now is a channel called Virtual and a channel called Summoning Salt. And what they do is they do documentaries on video games. Virtual does it specifically on a game called Trackmania. And Trackmania is a racing game, but it's an arcade racer, right? So it's nothing like sim racing. But what he did for that game is massive. He has 1 million subscribers from making documentaries about world records and achievements on this arcade racer. And to me, I'm like, well, why hasn't somebody tried that with iRacing? It's not going to be as big as Trackmania because it's a little more fun
Barrier
to
entry.
watch
Yeah.
Trackmania. Yeah, and it's a free game, barrier of entry, all that stuff. But there is so much space to do that exact same thing in a sim racing context, and no one's ever done it for iRacing. No one's ever done it for any sort of serious racing game, and I honestly don't know why. Like it kind of baffles me. But that was something that I knew that I would do down the road, but I needed to get better at making videos first. So I started out taking inspiration from like commentary, even commentary channels. Like I can't think of many off the top of my head. Almost like I don't watch them, but almost like an H3 production style video, but for
Yep.
iRacing. Just channels like that. I'm like, no one does that for iRacing. Why not? There's space for it. And so all of these video ideas that I have are videos that I watch and say, I could do that in iRacing and I'd be the only one doing that. And if you're interested in seeing that done, you can only go through me to watch it. So that's kind of how a lot of my videos come about.
Inside of the niche, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the content inside of the niche, and it makes sense. And the one thing you said earlier there was like to grow. Sometimes when you know you have like a niche, you have to kind of grow that niche too. Like same
Yeah.
thing we talk about Trackmania. So part of your responsibility to accomplish your goals is also to grow the space in which like get that views, right, and get interest in that. So you're kind of doing two jobs at once, and one is
Yeah.
thankless.
Right, exactly. And they're
Yeah.
both thankless.
Yeah, really, you're right. Yeah. Well, at least one you can thank yourself, right? But the other one is complete.
Yeah. But I think that it's been proven too. Like I had my 2 most viewed videos ever in the past 4 months, and both of them were essentially copying virtual and doing a documentary on a cool story that's happened in sim racing. Like they both, one's gotten over 200,000 views, one's almost at 200,000 views.
So I
And
watched
it's
the
like,
one about the guy in the what series, the open wheel series.
yeah,
And that I think I watched it the second it came out, to be honest with you. I got the alert, right? And I was like,
yeah.
oh, I want to see this one, right? And if I hold on, let me get the title, the worst iRacing pro ever or something
Oh
along
yeah, that
The
was
lowest
a
rated
fantastic
iRacing pro
video.
ever, yeah.
Exactly. So you know how your brain connects is like worst driver ever, but I'm sure he wasn't. He's beat me, right? If we were at a race together, and I watched, and I was like, this is fantastic, dude. That was great. It really, really was. How many views does that have now? It has to have a lot,
I think
right?
that has like 180,000 views.
It should.
And that's the thing though, is that it just takes somebody to care enough, because great stories happen everywhere, but it takes somebody to care enough that it happened and care enough to do the thing. And you can convey that, and anybody's going to care about it. You don't have to be a racing fan to care about that story. You don't have to be an iRacing fan to care about that story. All it needed was one, the story to happen, and two, somebody to care enough about that story to convey it to everyone else.
Yeah,
And
like
that's
if
something that iRacing and sim racing has been, in my opinion, lacking for a long time.
or non-existent unless it's from a POV, right? Like there's personal POV, and it's like almost like if a tree crosses the finish line, does it make a noise? And you're actually helping these trees make noises. I think that was
Right.
really, that video is incredible. To be honest with you, I watched that one. I think I watched it like 1.5 times. To be honest with you, but it was really, really good.
Same here.
So yeah, and the content, like as it progresses, is great, and the space is growing, and you do see new content creators, and let's kind of get into this. So like how we met, you and I, DJ Yee-J, prior to anything we ever did with Drive Smart, is I actually was in your Discord, and I had you do a coaching session with me in Arca. I forget the track. I think it was
I
North.
think it was USA.
It was USA. It was
I'm
something
pretty
where I
sure.
learned how to diamond for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And the way you went through the whole experience and like your knowledge, when we wanted to do the first event, when I spoke, you know, like with the rest of the team here, we're like, you're the perfect guy. It was not a long list because you were the only guy we knew, but we were like, you were the perfect guy, right? And you were, right? And that was a fun experience. So what was like from your perspective, what was it like the first time we kind of reached out to you to start working on and it was the design
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
The design contest was amazing, right? I don't think that one could have gone any better, personally. It just fit that balance of like providing something to the community that they appreciated and thought that was cool, but then also did a really good job just getting publicity for everybody involved. Um, I remember doing that lesson with you for the first time, and then 3 days later, you messaged me and you said, "Hey, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I have an idea." And I'm like, "Oh boy." And I gave you my number, and you called me, and you're like, "Hey, I
Who
actually
is
listen to
this
this company
crazy
called
guy?
Drive Smart."
Yeah.
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 And then I remember too, you're talking. We were talking during the lesson, and I had no idea who you were. I didn't know what Drive Smart was. I didn't know anything. And we were going through the lesson, and you were going to me like, "Who do you think is an underrated driver that should have a seat in NASCAR?" And I'm like, let me think about that for a second, because that's a small talk question that everyone talks to each other
Yeah,
about
yeah,
when they're
yeah.
racing.
Pretty normal.
And I was like, I'm thinking, the person who I think deserves a shot is Kyle Weatherman. And they're like, I've never heard of him before. And I'm like, oh yeah. And they're like, what about this other couple guys? I'm like, yeah, those other couple guys are pretty cool. But I'm a big Kyle Weatherman
I
fan
like how you
myself.
said these other couple guys to protect the innocent.
I was about to name them, but I didn't know how you would feel about that. So we're gonna go other couple guys.
The right thing. But I see that you started to fix your lips, right? If somebody zoomed that in, right, and stopped it, they would be able to figure it out.
No,
'cause
that was
you
smooth.
that noise.
I didn't start. I was smooth.
But yeah, you
Smart
did
guy.
point out Kyle Weatherman, and we were, because from a company standpoint at DriveSmart, we knew we wanted to announce the office in Arkansas, and we wanted it to have good exposure because we had to fill a lot of jobs, right?
Right.
So we felt like doing it with NASCAR made a lot of sense. I love the state of Texas, like personally, like love the state of Texas, right? Like other than the fact that I live in New Jersey, I would move to Texas in a heartbeat if my situation allowed. And I think the track is pretty cool. So we wanted to come up with something, but like when you have that one time spot, which a lot of sponsors do in Xfinity, where they come on for one time in the season, maybe two if they work a deal. When you have that one time spot, things can get lost for sponsors, to be honest with you. So like some sponsors think, and I'm not speaking for them, but some sponsors think that, okay, I'm on a NASCAR show, everything else is going to come together. Like my social post will work, and this will work, and that'll work. And because the car's on a track, like people are just going to either come to my product or use my service or know about my company. And is that true to some extent? Yes. Is it true inside the budget that most companies are comfortable with doing it for the first time? Probably not. If you want to pay for a really, 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 really high-end machine with a really high-end driver right off the bat, you're going to pay a lot of money in any level. Doesn't matter. All from ARCA all the way up to Cup and everywhere in between. So we knew that when we took the sponsorship, because we did with J.J. Yealy and Rick Ware years ago, and we could have got more from that. So we took the sponsorship, like we wanted to get the most out of it, right? We wanted to get the most exposure for brand recognition. And we're like, well, what do we control? Right, because Kyle's going to drive for Mario. Like, this is linked up. So what do we control? And we control the paint scheme. And that's when I reached out to you. I was like, what do you think about this and how do we do it? And you took the rest of it and ran with it, right? Like, you knew what the parameters were, and the rest of you ran with it. And I think the whole way it went down was sick.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the coolest thing is just we couldn't have had a better winner than Landon, in my opinion. Like that was just amazing that it worked out like that, because I was kind of worried that the person who was going to win was maybe because we didn't lock out the professional designers.
Oh,
We
there
had
were industry insiders for sure.
Yeah, there were multiple professional, maybe not professional designers, but people that had paints in real life before. We had at least two that I know of, probably more. And I wouldn't have been bummed, but I wouldn't have been as stoked if a person who already had experience in NASCAR won. And when Landon won, it was just like it was perfect because one, he was a kid, right? He barely was 18. He barely was able to sign up for the contest in the first place. And when he won the contest, a lot of people would say, "Man, this is the best thing that's ever going to happen to me. I'm going to soak it in, and then we're going to move on." But no, Landon was like, "I'm going to use this as a way to get myself into the industry because
100%.
now I got a way to get in here." And the kid's been grinding. He's on multiple Joe Gibbs cars this year.
I know. His passion's incredible. That story was nuts, to be honest with you. Like, if you would have told me when we first like kind of worked through the whole thing that this is how it was going to go, like we would have been like, I would have been like, you're crazy, or vice versa. And him winning, like it was such a perfect story. It almost would seem like it was scripted, right? Because then we found out about his story on NASCAR Kids years before that. So he's had a passion for it his whole life. honestly, how he won, his parents are awesome, right? But his mom is the greatest marketer ever because she had spread the news so far through every reach he had that he collected a ton of votes,
Yeah.
and it still was close, but he collected a ton of votes. And when he won, and everybody went out to Texas, that was an awesome experience. And then when we got down to Daytona, and I seen Sheldon Creed's car, and Landon was there, I was like, this is wild. Like, he really is banging on doors, and he's getting in a lot of doors. He's on a lot of cars now. It's pretty crazy to watch that happen. How does that feel for you? Because that's got to be kind of nuts, right?
Honestly, it's reminding me that I wanted to make a video with him. I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on, obviously, but yeah, no, it makes me feel good, but also I'm just in awe because like I would have never done any of the stuff that he did when I was 18. Uh, I I didn't have the talent and pretty much anything. I don't think I even like if I started YouTube when I was 18, I don't think I would have gone anywhere because I don't think that I had the skills necessary at that point. But in terms of something like graphic design, definitely not. And then seeing somebody who's 18 years old and not only having the ability, but having the people skills and like I think these days, and I mean I'm gonna sound like I think I'm old, but I'm only what is it, 6 years old? No, 8 years older than him. So I'm not that much older than him. But like when I think of kids these days, I think of people that like don't have any social skills or anything like that. But Landon was just like he's such a go-getter that it just it inspired me to reach out to more people and make more cold calls. And that's gotten me more opportunities, to be quite honest with you. And I have a lot to thank him for because I just saw that happen in front of me. And that weekend, it was the first time that I really did something like that because I was with Landon and we were trying to figure out how to get you guys on the broadcast, right? It was a playoff race.
I'm gonna let you tell that story, but you did a great job. Go ahead.
Yeah. We were like, okay, how the heck are we going to get this car on the broadcast? Because it's a playoff week. It wasn't the championship for, but it was the end of a round. So the entire broadcast was going to be based around playoff cars. Just the literal entire broadcast. You would have had to total the car to get a second of TV time. And so I was trying to figure out how we're going to get you on TV. And then me and Landon were hanging out, and we see Dave Burns, one of the pit lane reporters. He's talking to Brendan Poole. And I had come to know Brendan Poole just a little bit because he was at dinner the night before. I met him at dinner the night before, and so I was like, okay, well, he probably knows who I am. And I'm like, well, you might think I'm a really outgoing person, but I'm really only like that behind the safety of a camera and people that I know well. I'm pretty shy when it comes to like strangers and stuff like that. So I was just like, all right, Landon, here's your chance. You go up there and you tell Dave Burns about your story so that you get on TV. And Landon's like, I don't know about that, man. And I'm like, you sure? He's like, no. I'm like, fine.
I gotta do this, yeah.
Fine, I'm gonna do it for you. You did a lot for me. I'm gonna do it. I drag him up. We go up to Brendan Poole and Dave were talking. I put my arm around Brendan Poole. This is not like me. I'm not like this. I put my arm around Brendan Poole. I'm like, yo, Brendan, what's up? He's like, hey man, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. Hey, Dave, do you have a moment? And Dave was like, oh yeah, what's your name? I'm like, I'm Justin. I'm a huge fan of yours. And this is Landon. He actually won a contest so that he could design that 91 Drive Smart car. There's like, oh really? He's like, you won a contest? I'm like, yeah. He takes out his little notepad, and I'm like, yeah. He won a so you tell him Landon. Oh, I didn't say tell him Landon, but they're like, yeah. I nudge Landon. And Landon's like, oh yeah, I'm Landon. I'm from here. Blah 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 blah. And Dave writes down his notepad, and I whisper over to Brandon. I'm like, sorry, bro. And Brandon's like, it's cool. Yeah. And so Dave Burns gets all that down on his pad. I'm like, oh, you're so awesome. Thanks, man. We'll get out of your way. And Dave's like, all right, awesome. And then we didn't get on the main broadcast, but we got on the qualifying broadcast in the middle of when cars were going. He was like, oh, and look at this paint scheme right here, because it was in between rounds, I think.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, look at this paint right here. It's the 91 car. And this was actually designed by a high schooler who won a contest. And I'm like, no way. And so
I
I'm like,
remember you showed me it in the Discord because somebody in the Arca farm had like clipped it when it was happening because we were on
yeah.
the road when it was. Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, that's so sick.
That was a sick
So
experience.
it just is like it was. I know that like putting yourself out there and making those connections is like the key to life, right? That's just how you become successful in life. But it's so scary at the same time, and I think that like I really do think that Landon, like the way that he was through the whole thing, really just helped me kind of become this, try to do the same thing at least.
Yeah, no, he did a great job. And then let's move on to so we were like, all right, we did the we did the paint scheme, right? And then we're like, I had talked to you for a while when we were talking about going on as like a primary for this season, and you kind of knew a lot of things before a lot of other people did because I kind of asked your opinion on things. And then we were like, okay, cool. We have an off season, right? We're going to announce like we're going to go primary with Kyle and DGM, and we need to do some event. And we came up with Drive Smart to Daytona. That's another one that you had a ton of input on and put a lot of it together. And I know when we first started talking about it, we did the time trial. So here's where I will admit that things didn't go exactly as planned, right? But it was for unforeseen because we tried to put a lot of stopgaps in place. But it was tough to do time trials and then have the influencer spread we did, which was great. I mean, we kind of covered every angle like we wanted to. And then not and actually expect every person that had it, like not a fair shot, but like there were going to be some favoritism because they know somebody. Like we seen the NR night team, right? And we kind of seen, I mean, Casey was just smart and got Tucker right off the rip, which I don't blame him, right? So
Yeah.
like, how do you think that kind of went? Like, what would you change if you were going to do it again?
Yeah. I think that the Drive Smart to Daytona, I think the idea was too good for the amount of time that we had to put it together, especially with just my lack of experience of doing anything like that. And so a lot of like stuff wasn't accounted for that I think should have been accounted for. Um, I know that it was supposed to be an off-season thing, but I think it could have gotten like really huge if we did it as just like a one race Daytona like spectacle, and you are getting drafted for this specific race. And a lot of the stuff that kind of goes out the window too with like favoritism because it's like it's Daytona. Like you're gonna choose the people that you like, and maybe we could have put more restriction on the coaches, but I think that I could have probably been more clear about restriction with the coaches, but I didn't want to piss them off at the same time because they got friends, and if they don't choose their friends are going to get mad at them, and it's like, how do you fix that? And
I
it's
think the
just
racing was great.
the
Like,
racing was the
let's say that.
best.
The racing was excellent.
I heard from so many drivers through both the qualifying and the actual series that was like the best racing that they've ever had in a league like that, and it was because of the teams aspect. I think that every event I do from now on is going to be teams based because you have a lot of people out there that are willing to be weapons if it's just for them, but they don't want to disappoint people by putting their team in danger because of something stupid they do.
That was smart by us, right? That when we were talking, it's like everybody in the team wins money. So even if you're not in the top 10, right? Because there's X amount of cars, you still have a chance of winning $500, right?
Yeah.
So like everything, and you are right. Like that makes a lot of sense. I like you said, it's tough to do it. You would have to make it a one time, maybe a much longer, like a 500. And it's more of a spectacle, and everything just leads up to one night. Everything is just like all action all the time, prizes, bonuses, whole 9 yards, right? Because the season does get a little daunting. It was fun, but that would have to be more regular. Like you would expect us to do X amount of races a season. They do this because you're going to expect that curve, just like NASCAR does on TV.
Right.
But I think overall the event was awesome. Daytona was great, except for it rained a lot, right? And I know you kind of got screwed over because you had to fly back early.
Yeah. I literally, so I had a work meeting scheduled for that Tuesday where I had people fly up to me for it, right? So it's like if I call in sick or something like that, then I just absolutely screw them over too.
Yeah, it's
And
just
I'm
not
just
good.
like, yeah, oh man.
Not good.
I wish, because I could have scheduled that meeting another day back because it's a long story, but
It's okay.
yeah,
But
I
it's
feel
still,
I
the
should have
weather
foreseen
still
that
was
that was an
bad.
option.
The
Yeah.
weather was rough. I had a lot of fun down there. Casey and Tucker are awesome, to be honest with you. They're hilarious. I mean, the whole, even like, I don't know, that whole group was incredible, and I had a blast in Daytona. And so there's so much more we can go over. Like, first off, that's how we all kind of met, right? Like, this Pit Crew podcast came together because, like, of one, Dry Smart to Daytona, two, we were working with DLB a little bit, but you had started working with him, and we were looking for a full-time content creator, and you actually had put his name in the hat originally when we started talking about it, right? So yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know, DJ Yee-J actually recommended DLB to us at Dry Smart for the position that he's in now. And the channel is doing great. Like, first and foremost, DLB takes most of that weight on.
20K.
Yeah, over 20K. I think like 25,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you bigger on this than you are on your main channel now, Dustin?
I'm at 31,000 on
Oh,
DLBTV. Drive Smart's gonna knock it out here in the next month easily. It's
Although
like
you-
it's crazy to think about because I put years in a DLBTV and then Drive Smart's just like a rocket ship, zoom, and then it's just gonna overtake it easily. So,
Well, some of
but
I think one of your videos got like 750,000 views or something nuts.
Yeah,
that's wild to me.
so one of the
And,
Drive Smart videos, the Talladega one, got 713,000. I mean, we got some pretty viral videos that've been popping off, but no,
Yeah,
it's
that's
been
exactly
such
what you're looking for.
And what's really
Yeah,
cool, seeing some of the videos now, like, it used to take a little bit, but now you see immediate traction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how you know you're getting an audience.
Sorry, I died. I tried to get away. I was never fun.
Don't die. Come back.
So yeah, there's so much we can go through, but we're getting close to that hour. So I wanted you to be the guest here for one very specific reason. Okay.
Olympics.
Brought up in the Olympics. I brought this up early before we got on, but I didn't give you a lot of details, and we talked about it when we first got live. But Dry Smart's interested in doing another iRacing based event. But we want to do it during the Olympics
Yeah.
at some point when NASCAR takes that break. Like, we want to give content. What do you think would be you have no idea, because we've never spoken about this. So you are
No,
so
I think
on-
I've
yeah.
pitched this to you before, Chris, and I'm going to pitch it again. I think that we do the iRacing Olympics. I think we find top pro level drivers in every discipline and make them drive every discipline. So like a schedule with one oval race, one dirt road race, one dirt oval race, one road race, or maybe one sport car, one formula race. 5 races, we can call it like the pentathlon or whatever. And we put up a prize pool that gets pro level drivers from each facet of iRacing to come on, get I don't know how big the field would need to be, but you just do a quick 5 race series. Races don't need to be too huge a spectacle, but it's basically like the age old question that people want to figure out: what style of racing are the best overall racers, right? Oval drivers think that, yeah, road racers look down on oval racing too much. Well, best thing we can do is take an oval racer and have them beat their other guys at their own game. Road racers want to prove their superiority. Well, we can come onto ovals and beat you. That's how easy it is. You know what I mean? I think that an iRacing pentathlon would be a crazy spectacle for something like that.
And you're saying so if I was one of the drivers in this event, I would race every one of those disciplines. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have different members of my team for each discipline, right?
Right. Yeah, you get a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal. And you know what? It could even be a field of 10 cars. If it's the best of the best, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, the field we'd figure out. I think that's a sick idea. I'd like to end it in oval, right, and have that be so. In a perfect world, it's going to sound like absolute insanity.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be like a 12-hour spectacle, right? That just goes
Yeah.
like forever, right? And then like it ends with not a Daytona 500, but something, an oval that's long and it's just a grueling stamina finish.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting too, because what's the race that happens right after the Olympics? Do you know?
Is it the Brickyard?
Daytona.
Is it
Is it
Daytona?
Da-
Oh yeah,
If
believe
it's
it's
Daytona,
Daytona.
then you can just run a Firecracker 400 to finish it off.
just to finish it off, right? And then maybe just to save people time, like if we don't want to go 12 hours, we can have the athletes in it do one of the disciplines prior, and that'll be the
Mhm.
warm-up show.
Yeah.
And like that'll set the point spaces to go into day 2 or something. Or how would you do it? Because I think you You are right. I don't want to make it multiple stream events. That part scares me. I want one big stream where we focus all our effort.
Yeah, so if you want to do the one big event thing, those endurance races on oval. So like, have you seen the Moon Car 24, the Mazda MX-5s on Martinsville for 24 hours?
No, but I feel
Those
like
are insane.
Yeah, that's like the
Yeah.
biggest like alternative event of the year. Like
It's
outside of like,
alternative for sure.
yeah, but like I also have another idea that I haven't done yet. I'll pitch it. I'll pitch this one to you. I want to do a race called the Daytona question mark. And why it's a question mark is because it's going to be a 100 lap race. And by the end of the race, you cross the start finish line. And after the race is over, you do a random number generator 1 to 100. And whichever number comes out of that number generator, whoever led that lap wins the race.
Whoa.
And so what that would do is that everyone would be racing the entire time and not just pacing, because you want to lead as many laps as possible.
chose a mystery a mystery leader. Yeah, like it's a pretty cool idea. It's like
I heard DJ pitch that one a year ago. Like he's been on that one for a while.
Yeah, I think that would be one of the, because, and what that also does is that gives viewers an incentive never to leave, right? When you watch a super long iRacing NASCAR race, you watch lap 1, lap 2, and you say, if the racing's not super compelling, you say, okay, I'll check back halfway through. And then maybe you forget about it and you check back with 10 laps to go.
Maybe, yeah. I know.
But
They'll be
if you
killing
haven't-
each other every lap, but I think it'll be entertaining.
Yeah. Well, that's how we would have to be very creative with how we do cautions and stuff. So
Yeah.
it would maybe be something like cautions only happen every 20 laps. So if you wreck, good luck, or something like that. And you would do it in a car which has the most forgiving pushes possible. So probably the next
Fast
gen,
repairs or no?
probably, because the whole goal is that you want to have every lap mean something. And it might not end up meaning something at the end, but in real time when you're watching it, lap 17 means as much as lap 100. And that's what would, I think, make that event such a good kind of special event for iRacing, because it kind of fits the bill for keeping it interesting while also hopefully providing good racing.
I think if you want complete chaos, unlimited fast repairs, yellow every 20 laps, and these guys are just coming in, everyone's trying to lead every lap, there's crashes every corner, there's excitement going on all the time. You may get 3 guys break out up front, and then they're going to be trying to pass each other and race each other. Lap traffic, don't want to go a lap down. It's like, it'd be chaos, but... Who wants to not watch a lap? It's like, you're going to want to watch all of it. It's like, you don't tune in for the last 5 laps, you tune in for the first 5.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that not having laps under caution not count. So like how they do it in dirt, they only start counting laps when you go green again. So that would make it so that, yeah, sure, you light a lap before the caution, but you don't get rewarded like 3 extra bonus laps for it. So it would be 100 green flag laps. It would be more with the caution laps. So the broadcast would actually be fairly long. But we would be able to control the time very well by just saying, hey, there's a caution every 20 laps.
Yeah.
Good luck.
20, 40, 60, 80. 20 lap dash at the end of just...
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
And for people that hadn't led a lap there, right? Let's say that you've gotten unlucky, you've been in a couple wrecks, but you still have a chance to win the race. If you can get your name on the board for 1 lap, you'll have a 1% chance to win the race. And I think it would be absolutely madness if somebody wins the race that only led 1 single lap. I think that'd be great.
That's interesting.
Like, you could even put, like, the fuel mileage on, like, ×2 or ×3 or whatever and try to get a pit stop within every 20 laps, like a green flag pit stop. Then strategy comes involved. I think you could do some crazy stuff with it.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, with the format. And I think that it's the most streamable format. I think running a race in principle is really hard for like a big like event stream, because you need to have stakes, and the stakes can come in the form of prizes, and it can come in the form of like action. And it's really hard to get that action consistently out of sim racing sometimes. Not all the time. Some of the times it's great, but not all the time. and the prize will speak for itself in a way, but at the same time, it's sometimes hard to convince people to care about a random guy winning money. So
Right,
you
yeah.
have to make the money kind of work into everything else to add to the tension of the on-track
Yeah, people wanna
product and
see
not
a
just the implication.
random guy with the money.
Yeah,
Right.
you gotta find a way to attract the big
Not just a
names,
random
you know,
guy.
to get the best
Yeah.
talent in, and they'll be like, "Alright, I want chaos," and that may be a little bit tricky, but you'd have to find a way to get their attention.
Where
Right.
no, we can have all the big names, right? They can be lined up. But people want to see random big name randomly win the money, is
Ye-
what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that the money is a way for them to show a better product on the track.
It's a reason. It's a reason. Well, so
Yes.
what I was gonna say here, right, is I want to we want to have a conversation with you soon about trying to put together another event. That's the idea. Ideally, it's going to be during the Olympics. I mean, obviously, there's some things we got to flush out, but it's nothing we haven't done before, and we got a little over a month. So that's how I like to do it, about a month
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So definitely. So this was awesome. We're getting to that 9 o'clock hour, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. DJ Yee-J, I can keep you on here for 5 hours straight, but I don't know how these guys would feel. But it was awesome seeing you. Obviously, we're gonna be in touch super soon. Appreciate you coming on here. I think you guys go ahead and give something away, and this is where I skedaddle.
Do it. With that said, let's go ahead and wrap up episode number 13 of the Pit Crew podcast. You can catch us over here every single Thursday night at 8 p.m. with a different special guest by the week. I appreciate all you guys tuning in and viewing, and we'll catch you in the next episode.